All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most central services in Christianity, the Lord's Supper. You might know it as communion. It's a practice that's absolutely packed with deep symbolism and history, and we're going to spend the next few minutes breaking down what it all really means. So, that brings us to the big question, right? What is the actual meaning behind this sacred meal? I mean, we know it involves things like bread and wine, but it's obviously so much more than just a snack. It's a really profound ceremony, so let's start by getting a solid definition of what it is at its very core. So, first things first, before we can really get into the why behind it all, we need to understand the what. So, what exactly is the Lord's Supper? Let's get a foundational definition on the table. Okay, let's unpack this a bit because there are some really key words in here. The first one that jumps out is participation. This isn't something you just sit back and watch. It's meant to be an active, personal engagement. Then you see the word emblems. That's just a way of saying these are powerful symbols. The bread represents the body of Jesus and the wine his blood. And the whole thing, the entire act, serves as a tangible expression of faith. It's a way for believers to physically demonstrate their internal commitment. Okay, so we've got the what down. Now let's get to the even bigger question, the why. Why is this service performed? It's definitely not just a ritual for the sake of ritual. It holds some really deep, multi-layered significance for everyone who takes part. Well, it seems to boil down to three key purposes. First, just like we saw in the definition, it's an outward sign of an inward faith. You're showing what you believe. Second, it's seen as this moment of real spiritual connection, where people believe Christ is actually present with them to strengthen them. You can almost think of it as a form of spiritual nourishment. And third, and this one might sound a little strange at first, it's a joyful proclamation of the Lord's death. It sounds like a contradiction, but the joy isn't in the death itself, but in celebrating what that event means within the Christian faith. And this part of the quote, "until he comes again," is absolutely crucial. It shows us that the service isn't just about looking backward at an event in history. It's also about looking forward with a sense of hope and anticipation. It's this powerful ritual that connects the past, the present, and the future all in one moment. So if this service is such a big deal, you've got to wonder, how does someone even prepare for it? Well, it turns out that the preparation is considered just as important as the act itself, and it involves both some deep internal reflection and an outward physical action. The whole process really begins on the inside, with a personal journey. It starts with self-examination, basically taking an honest look at yourself. This naturally leads to the next step, which is repentance. That's the decision to turn away from things you've identified as wrong. And that is then followed by confession, which is acknowledging those things. It's a very intentional three-step process designed to get your heart and mind ready. So we can see that all the prep work starts on the inside. But is that it? Is it all just in your head and in your heart? Or is there also a physical component, a physical act that's part of this preparation? And the answer is yes, there is. In fact, Jesus himself, who's referred to here as the Master, is said to have established a specific service to come right before the supper, the service of foot washing. Now, to our modern ears, that might sound a little bit unusual, but the symbolic meaning behind it is incredibly powerful. You see, the act of foot washing really has a two-part meaning. The action itself symbolizes a kind of renewed cleansing, getting a person ready for communion. But the deeper meaning, the real heart of it, is all about humility. By performing what was seen as a very lowly task back then, participants are showing they're willing to serve one another. It's an act that's meant to unite their hearts in love right before they share in this sacred meal together. All of this brings us to our final section, and it addresses a really important and very practical question. After all this preparation, both internal and external, who's actually invited to the table? Who is considered eligible to participate in the Lord's Supper? And the answer is actually very straightforward. The service is considered open to all believing Christians. And that's a really significant point because it means the invitation goes way beyond the walls of any single church building or any specific denomination. It's intended to be a unifying act for the entire community of faith, open to anyone who has prepared themselves and wants to participate. And this brings us to one last kind of bigger question to think about. While the Lord's Supper is a very personal act, it's also deeply communal. It really makes you wonder, how does a shared symbolic ritual like this one actually help shape and define the core identity of an entire community? It's a fascinating look at how powerful these shared symbols can be in creating a sense of belonging and a collective purpose.